Hey everybody, and welcome to Last Voyage of the Whales Whiskers. I am Tall Squall, and if this is your first time joining the channel, I just wanted to let you know we do run 100% for charity, and are just happy to have you here. We're telling a wonderful story with these folks sitting around the virtual table, and let's go around real quick and meet who they are. We will start off with Kuma.
Hi, hello, yes, I'm Kuma. I play Kato, our life cleric, a brass dragonborn.
And next up, we have Bird.
What's up, folks? I'm Bird. I'm playing Baldir the Wanderer, a Loxodon Storm Sorcerer.
Next up, we have Meta.
Hi everyone, I'm Metazoa. I'm going to be playing as Queta, a Dwarven Eldritch Knight fighter.
Nice. Next up, we have Grant from the other side of the world.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm Grant. I play Halron, our drow druid, and this evening I'm actually playing from South Africa, so it is 2 a.m. here at this point.
Next up, we have Ace.
Hi, I am Ace. I play Duron, the fathomless warlock, who is definitely not the BPEG of this campaign.
And last but not least, we have Soul.
Hello everyone, I'm Sol. I play Otrek, our lizard folk artificer, and I'd like to point out that our fathomless warlock is definitely out of his depth here.
Uh, 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 uh. I'm Tall Squall, and I am your Dungeon Master, and as I said, we do run 100% for charity. If you would like to donate to Satchel's Last Resort, which is a wonderful animal rescue organization down in Sarasota, Florida, you can click on the little link down below. Also, if you're enjoying our artwork that we have, both for our ship and for our character tokens, please check out the links for our artists, who are also right down below in the information about the stream. And without further ado, I think we're going to jump sort of right into this, as our music has sort of giving little flashbacks to our friends and players. As last session, after a sort of exciting and amazing splashdown into the Cerulean Sea, the Whales Whisker and the crew were said adieu to the large primordial brass dragon, Jin Sarat, who had carried them over the mountains from Port Seridan. Arriving in the Cerulean Sea, they were sort of on their mission to try to find what they came to call a sky shard, this piece of the sphere of this sort of solar system itself, for those of you who know a little bit about Spelljammer, that had been shattered and carried to this world by this giant cosmic level dragon as it crashed into this planet at the dawn of time on this planet. They had sort of mapped out a sort of search cone. They were going to go about this very methodically, heading up to the north, then to head to the south, knowing they eventually wanted to try to find this mysterious portal that their crew member, Baldir the Wanderer, had passed through to get here from another world as the only Loxodon on this planet. But on their way, they were intercepted by a even larger primordial dragon, the patron of our warlock, Duron, who had been calling out for Duron to come to this sea for almost a century and a half. He had been thwarted along his way many, many times, but finally, having enlisted Biriana and the crew with these visions he had had of this sky shard, finally enticed Biriana and these other explorers to travel on this last voyage. This voyage to explore not just a new sea, but perhaps even a new world. Yet, when he arrived and was confronted by his patron, a primordial dragon a scale of magnitude 10 times larger than any other primordial that anyone had ever known of or any stories had ever told of. One Shimandala. They had a mission for the crew, for these vessels, as they called them, to go and retrieve what had been stolen, the very same sky shard that they were going to try to take and use to travel to another plane, is a part of the horde of this dragon that very much wants it back. After a tense standoff with Otrek, who is a offshoot, a creation, a experimental mishap of another primordial dragon. And some fast talking, some, hey, your enemy's my enemy too. Anything that pisses him off is good with me. And some grudging respect from Shimandala to Otrek on that account. And fast talking by some of our other for our other crew members. Baldir sort of breaking the standoff, perhaps not in the way in which he intended, but Shimandala sent them on their way towards a corrupted reef that he had mentioned, where the Verdant Shadow, another primordial dragon, a primordial green from the Drakovarian jungle, where Otrek is from, had somehow taken this sky shard from him and barred his way from being able to recover it. Barred Shimandala's way from being able to recover it. Using a massive wall of water, basically through the crew leagues to the south away from their current position, but keeping one young, timid crew member, Fitz, as collateral to make sure that these adventurers didn't abscond with what was theirs, what they wanted the party to recover. We pick up with our group. The ship is finally settled. Again, probably 2 to 3 days sail to even try to get back to where they were. To the south. Sitting basically in calm waters, but just sort of rocking there. The sail's not set. Basically, the ship not moving. The crew having been released from these spheres of water that had imprisoned them. Soaking and looking around at each other. The party, as well as the rest of the crew. Stunned silence. The doldrums that had becalmed them earlier within this field of Leviathan heads and bloody chum-filled waters has subsided, but no one has made a move yet to really try to get the ship under sail. That's where we'll pick up. Moments after the ship comes to rest, after being pushed sideways across the Cerulean Sea, bobbing in the water. I turn to y'all.
So Otrek will almost instinctively call out for Scott to come to him, and then realize that Scott's off with Fitz, and look around at the ship and the state of disarray it's in, and you can just see him kind of stuck in his head, just very much thinking, not frenetically active, just lizard still, as he holds to a railing and looks at the ship and then casts his gaze across everyone else. We need a plan.
I think what we need, and Kato's going to turn his head over to Duron, is answers.
Duron doesn't meet Kato's gaze. Very much looking away from him at the moment.
If there's anyone struggling to like get up or struggling to move right now after splashing down in the way that we did, Queta would probably be using some of her ropes, especially her rope of climbing if she could, to kind of make some sort of way to pull people back up to their feet, to safety, in any other way that she could. That would be preoccupying her right now.
Yeah, you do see Edgar Coldshell, the older dwarf, sort of on the wrong side of the rail, holding on, trying to get himself back up over there, having been just barely made it back on the ship. The rest of the crew, Lars, Kareth, Nirial, are just kind of standing there dripping in shock, looking around. Biriana just sets a hard gaze on Duron.
I warned you.
Not to be one to pass on the details, you didn't show me a dragon whose head was bigger than my ship. I've negotiated and dealt with primordials, but that, whatever it was, is so beyond anything that I've ever seen before, that anyone's ever even talked of. I'm not even sure if it is a primordial at this point. That is where your magic comes from. That was calling to you to bring us all here.
That appears to be self-evident. For the record, I have never met my patron before either, and I can only show you what I know.
I guess my problem that I seem to be having trouble wrapping around my brain here is why you, and he's gonna point a claw at Biriana, didn't mention any of this, nor you, and Kato's gonna point a claw to Duron. These are big details for a crew to share. Things that probably need to be explained beforehand. If your first words are, I warned you, and it literally only counts for one person on this entire ship, there's a problem here.
Otrek will stand beside Cato adding his girth to Kato's height, and will also make eyes at Duran and Bariana very accusingly, and he will definitely confront Bariana forthwith and say, I cannot plan for things I do not know. This changes everything.
Oh, I agree. And while the dream that I was sent, while we were already crossing the mountains by our friend Duran, was a dragon from below racing up from the depths. I never conceived that this would be what we were dealing with. I mean, we had Jin Sharat. The maps we've used are from other primordials. I am the captain. You are correct. It is my fault. I will take responsibility.
If you had told me that part of this trip was to be so that Duran could meet his patron and fulfill some sort of something that needed to be done within him.
I did not know that part.
Either way, if this was for both of you, or one of you, I would have supported you. It's what we're here for. But if I don't know...
For my part, I was not hiding my intentions. But to say that this went how I thought it would, that I would get answers, is very far off the mark. Regardless, the situation we find ourselves in now needs our attention. What will we do now?
Biriana looks at Duran. I don't think there's much of a question. We're missing a crew member, and as far as I can tell, there's only one path to getting him back. You said we were a family. Well, not only is he a part of the Wales Whiskers family, he's also part of my family. I don't intend to allow Fitz to be just another piece of this dragon's hoard.
On that, Baldir has been staring off at the horizon with a look on his face like he was stabbed through the heart. Just in a trance, almost. And hearing mention of Fitz, and that exact sentiment from Bariana, he will tighten his frame and walk towards the group. And almost choke on his words for a second before kind of finding his rhythm and say, whatever happens, whoever is blamed for leading us into this moment, I lost Fitz. I've guided nobles, soldiers, generals, commoners for decades upon decades upon decades through the caverns and over the mountains of Limehold. I've communed and I've consulted with cutthroats and bandits and crazed madmen, and I've never lost a soul. And today, because of a stupid gamble, I lost it. I lost Fitz! And he will slam his massive foot onto the deck, and I think it shatters some of the wood beneath him. Maybe jolts him from his rage a little bit, and you can see just some of the magic channel into a mending spell to try to get that fixed.
Queta will quickly lower Baldir's hands, as I assume he is kind of panically, hurriedly trying to fix those, and she'll just say, "This is my job. You just rest easy." She'll kind of fish around for her whatever they're called, carpenter's tools, and set to work just repairing that by hand. Maybe just to give some ambient noise.
Yeah, so Queta begins to repair the deck where it's been a little bit, sort of gently maneuvers Baldir out of the way to begin hand fixing any damage to the deck, keeping her hands busy. Halren.
Yeah. Halron has been keeping quiet for a while and taking in all of this. But after Baldir's outburst, he will put his hand on Baldir's shoulder and say, "My friend, when that creature had all of us held in these spheres of water, it was you, among others, of course," looking then at Duran and Otrek, "who stepped up to speak to it, to convince it not to simply end us all right there. Of course, the loss of Fitz is clearly felt by all." Again, looking around, towards Biriana and everybody else as he says that. "But I'm sure we'll get him back. And that's what we have to do now."
I think Baldir looks at you with a very fiery intensity that's not really normal for him. And taking a deep breath, and breathe out. And just nod. And kind of look around to the others before finally focusing his gaze on Duran. And he'll remain silent, but man, Baldir does not get angry. Baldir does not get frustrated. And there is just a lot of fiery heat behind his eyes right now.
Biriana sort of looks eye to eye of everyone to see if there's any more that anyone has to say. And goes, "Oh, Duran.
Yep. I think, the only thing going through Duran's mind that he's going to be able to say really out loud is, I didn't know. And he kind of looks really despondent and turns around, looking out off the side of the boat.
So Biriana chimes in. Well, I don't think our mission has much changed. We'd always come intending to retrieve this sky shard, but it seems like we're no longer aiming to take it with us and go somewhere else, but that's a trade-off I'll happily make if it means we get Fitz back. So, looking to Duron, if you've got a course for us, looking to Halran to guide us. We've got to go get a sky shard and save our boy.
Well, we must find the reef now, no? Duran, have you any idea where it may lie?
Does Duran share that his amulet is pulling him in a direction?
Yeah, so he's gonna... Excuse me. He's gonna, like, kind of take his hands and hold them out, and you guys watch as his amulet kind of floats a little bit in the midair. And you see it pull a certain direction. And he just points. That way.
Biriana sort of claps her hands. That's sort of really loud. I'm not going to do it to blow out everyone's mic. Of, you know, someone who is used to using noise to get attention, to sort of break the crew out of it. You heard him. Set those sails. Set a course. Looks like south by southwest. We've got sailing to do. And you see the rest of the crew sort of begin to start to, you know, set the sails, adjust the ropes, get the ship turned into the wind, or not into the wind, to have a trailing wind, to start heading on a course southward.
If I can speed it up even a little bit, Duron is going to cast Control Water and kind of like lift the ship a little bit and turn us, and then sort of give us a little bit of thrust in that direction.
Certainly, and I think a lot of people with their both water and wind and weather control, y'all are very familiar and work very much like a team. I know Baldir and Halran both have those spells as well. So I think as soon as you begin to cast, there's a recognition. If y'all would like to chip in, if you're in a mental state to do so, to get the ship underway and moving.
Yeah, I think Halron would be pleased to do so, and it looks like Baldir does too.
Mm-hmm. So the ship.
Oh yeah, he'll go plant himself firmly and just kind of lock up rigid, and just wherever Duran points, will channel his entire being into getting there as quick as possible.
Yep. So controlling wind with your storm sorcerer, along with, it seems to be a very favorable wind. You don't know if that is all Baldir's doing or perhaps some of Shimandala's as well, but the ship begins to make a southward progress. It is only around noon on this first day in the Cerulean Sea. From the sort of jubilant morning of discovery and new animals and new scenery, a rhythm begins to set in around the ship. Set on southward, as quick as the wind will take you. Is there anything people would like to do with the rest of this day?
I will confer with Hauron. just so that generally set it up so that he also can like navigate the direction that we're headed towards.
Easy enough with your cartographer tools in the maps. As the evening comes and you can get a lock on the stars, you're able to find that you were pushed almost like as I had mentioned above board, 2 to 3 days of sail time, sort of along your direction of travel to the southwest. Roll me a cartography tools check. I claim you've got that. Basically, it would just be your wisdom plus your proficiency if you don't have it set up in your thing for Halran or Duran or both. If you all want to.
Duran does not have proficiency in cartography.
Yeah, because you're like by.
I don't navigate with a map.
So you can have advantage if you want to help out. Yeah.
Yeah, I would help.
Yeah, because you with their sort of compass.
Great. Yeah, Halron also navigates in a little more of a, let's say, naturalistic way.
Esoteric.
As opposed to, yeah, sure, maybe. So yeah, I'll happily do a wisdom roll at least.
Yeah, wisdom plus proficiency.
Oh, yeah.
So it's probably like a wisdom saving throw would be the same math.
Oh, I know how to do the roll 20 stuff.
Okay, cool.
Oh, nice. Or, well, was it with advantage?
with
You said?
advantage,
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. It would be
Oh, hey, is this a check?
It is a check.
Would you be willing to let me grant him a D4 from my actual amulet?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely, since your amulet's part of this process.
Yeah.
So plus another D4. 19.
19.
You're able to lay out the course, and it's close enough. You can sort of interpret from the maps that you have gotten from Biriana, somewhere sort of down near this river inlet to the south seems to be perhaps sort of where that there would be a reef naturally forming around where the land sort of juts out there a little bit and the river comes in, that there's that perhaps is where this reef is located, somewhere across that shore, sort of down the bottom part of that yellow triangle that you were heading towards anyway.
Excellent. And so, in the course of working with Duran on this question, Halron will turn to him once they've really settled, okay, this is the direction, I know which stars I'm following and whatnot, and ask without any, particular edge or anything. So, Duran, if you had not met that, shall we say, creature before, from where did you think your power came?
It's not that I didn't know that I had a patron, but it's not like we are in two-way communication with each other.
Then what drove you to accept its gift? I understand, of course, your powers are magnificent, but they seem to have come at something of a cost.
One I have never had to pay before. Duran, by the way, is normally like super, I don't know, he's not cocky, but he's very like, this is what I need to do, this is how to get it done, sure of himself. And that is shattered at this point.
Well, perhaps sensing that, Halron will simply lay a hand on his shoulder and return to the task of making sure that we're on track and having cast control water and whatnot, that we can move as fast as possible.
Uh, once, well, I'll let everybody else do their thing, but once we finish, depending on what time of day it is at night, there is one more thing I want to do before the day ends.
Okay.
So if anybody else has something they want to do today.
I am going to turn to my good friend Bird for a quick second. Talk a little bit about Satchel's last resort, because I need to go take care of something with Lunar for 1 second.
Sure. This brief interlude is brought to you by Satchel's Last Resort. If you don't know, that's where Jay got Lunar from. I'm trying to find some great dog pictures right now. But basically, Satchel's Last Resort is just a dope-ass animal shelter that takes in dogs and cats and basically does everything they possibly can to keep these animals out of no-kill shelters, to rescue animals, to rehab animals, especially problematic animals that have been through a lot of abuse, aren't necessarily that easy to get back into a home. They do everything they can to help transition these pets so one can recover from whatever they've been through, and to hopefully be rehomed into a permanent home that's awesome and comfortable for them. I will toss a link into chat here. There we go. And yeah, basically all donations can be made available down yonder in the doobly-doo, as it is called. Yeah, that's what I got. Welcome back, Jay. I say as his headphones aren't in. There he is. Welcome back, Jay.
Thank you very much. I'm muted. Thank you very much. Sorry about that. Just dog things. Anyone else? I see we got a couple other people who had to jump out, took the opportunity to jump out real quick. Meta, Bird, or Kuma?
I do want to do something, but only when Baldir is free and done like pushing the ship.
Yeah.
Because I want to do something with him.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say probably at some point. Actually, I'll flavor this as like Baldir is channeling more energy into this wind than he ever has in his life, and I don't think he's used to being this driven and dedicated, so I think he might tap himself out a little early, whether he's tapped out for the day or if he just needs to actually rest. But at some point you do see Baldir go from that like locked, rigid, hard focused eyes to like a very, kind of the shoulders drop, the locked joints break and fall to his side, and you see that kind of intense anger resign and resolve itself into more of a worried sadness. And he'll just kind of lean forward and rest his arms on his knees and breathe deep, and you see him just doing kind of a deep breathing exercise to try to regain his composure. But yeah, this is probably the best it's going to be for Baldir in terms of like taking a break for a while.
Okay, yeah. So Quato would probably see that as she's like helping work the ship, and she would probably say from like somewhere in like off to the side, you're not going to be able to see the rest of this journey if you keep working yourself like that. And then she'll kind of quietly step forward.
Baldir will look at her, and he'll actually give a bit of a smirk. I'm sorry. It's a little funny to hear you say this, friend Queda. You work harder than any of us to maintain this vessel. And you do so with no complaints and no break. So that's something coming from you.
Queda will smirk, then maybe fish in her bag for her ion stone of sustenance, and just like if you had a pebble you were playing with, you'd be like tossing it up and down in your hands. She would say, I have my secrets and I have my ways, And then for just a little bit, she'll do something that not many people get to see. She'll cast Gust of Wind and start pushing the boat as well. Just a little bit. And as she's pushing it, she'll say, you know, even with all of these powers, however much power any of us has, there are things we're going to be afraid of, things we're going to be unable to control. And I understand being upset at those. After a few days ago, I understand even losing your temper and being angry at those. But there is an end goal to all of this. And we can't lose ourselves before we see it, she says. And she just continues pushing that a little bit more and waits to see what Baldir is going to say to that.
He drinks those words in and sees Queda pushing the ship on her own. I've memorized every place I've ever been, every place I've come from, every face I've seen. And it's stunning how easily it is for me to forget some of the basic things. That I can't prepare for everything, and that's I can't do it all alone either. So thank you, Queda, for the good surprises. And for being here to confront the bad ones. He will say real quick, I apologize for my... And he looks back at the area of the deck that he like broke. It's already fixed, but you know, he's still a little mortified about that display.
Queda's hands start to fidget a moment as she's like letting the wind push the sails. And she's kind of thinking and feeling a little apologetically about springing what she has to say next just onto someone out of the blue like this. She says, I think I have to apologize too. There are things that I don't think I can handle on my own either. And I'm sorry, but this wasn't just to give you support, although, and then she'll let the gust of wind dissipate as she says this. I'm very glad if it has. But there are things that I think we can both understand now. And that if you would be willing, I would like your help in being able to face as well.
Anything.
Have any of you ever had like this knot like form in your heart when you hear like something that like you maybe were hoping not to hear? So like she kind of gets that in her chest and she like says, even almost smaller than you've ever heard anyone else, anything? And she like puts her hand out to Baldir.
He looks at it for a second. I'm here, friend Queda. And yeah, he'll extend his.
Is there anyone else on the deck of the ship at the moment?
What does that mean?
I think there's people moving around, but I would say they're really paying attention. People are very much in their own mind and their own thoughts and sort of processing. You know, we're only an hour out of this encounter that could have killed everyone and sunk the ship. So,
all right. Queda says, "Follow me, please," and then she she walks with him and kind of sits. She walks with him to her quarters and sits in the center of the room and invites Baldir to sit down with him.
Yeah. He will not say a word. He's like approaching this with that kind of quiet understanding where he understands this is very like uneasy and on edge, and he doesn't want to do anything to like risk, wherever this is going. So he's going to just follow her directions, do everything he can to make sure she's comfortable, and sit and listen.
All right. So Queta just kind of breathes in and out for a moment and says, for the past few weeks, I think I've been having trouble walking around comfortably. I've been having trouble walking through even just these familiar halls without thinking there was something somewhere watching, maybe even taunting me, inviting me back to a place that I don't think I want to go. She fidgets, kind of eyeing around, watching the shadows playing on the walls, if there are any, once more.
Always in a ship, underneath and down under the decks of the ship, there's always shadow. It's pools of light more than it is even lighting. So there are lurking shadows in your room.
Just gonna let Baldir talk a little bit if he has anything to say.
I understand this is difficult to discuss. I do not wish to prompt you further than you wish to explore, but I am here to listen and hear, and Queta, more than anything, I'm here to help. Whatever that means. If that means to run from the past, then take my hands, and I'll stride beside you. If that means to confront it, I will stand next to you.
You'll be here with me, whatever is going to happen, she says. Again, a knot tightening in her chest.
He puts his patented Baldir smile on. It's what I do. I guide and I journey.
Queta kind of looks around again at the shadows as they play around the room. She murmurs to herself, I'm tired of living in fear of all this. And she casts, centered on like the point between where Baldir and her would be sitting, she casts darkness around them.
Okay. The room goes pitch black. A magical darkness that can't be penetrated. Yeah, not by Luxodon. I don't think I don't think you've got dark vision or anything along that thing, and it's magical darkness. So yeah, you are sitting in utter and complete darkness.
And he will remain stock still as best he can, once again, to not interrupt this or risk ending this conversation prematurely.
Are you still there? She says. Her voice is quivering. She's incredibly, scared right now.
As long as you'll have me.
You know what it's like to feel that sharp anger, that kind of, to have that moment where it warps your mind and takes over your very being.
Yes. Yes. It's something I bury, but as you've seen, it's impossible to cut from your system entirely.
Yes, even when it seems so far removed from our nature, it's as if something primal can reach into us and pull it out, or the influence of. And she kind of thinks about the belt for just a moment, and then looks around to see if she can, for whatever reason, see anything else.
As you, again, in this pitch darkness that you can't see through either, your mind drifts to the belt down in Otrek's lab. And as you send out that thought, you feel that same sort of connection that you felt that very first time.
She's kind of shivering as she can feel that connection kind of take hold of her again. She says, I can tell it's still there, you know. I can tell it still wants me. It's still beckoning toward me.
And it's a good thing you're not alone. You are more than capable of handling anything. You've proven this time and time again, but you're not alone. Let us help you in any way we can. So you, whoever the you want to be, remains firm and grip on that pin, writing your story.
Even if who I want to be, she says, thinking again about the bell, ends up having to give in, even if she wants to put those forces to work. Baldir wouldn't see it, but she's like kind of twiddling her thumbs, kind of pushing her hands together anxiously, just fiddling with her fingers.
I trust you, Goeda. And it's my hope that you trust me when I say that. I can tell whatever is happening, it's weighing on you. It's tearing at you. But you're still here, you're still capable, you're still moving forward. Find you. Let us help you find you. And trust that you are in control. The you want to be is in control, whatever that means. Queta, I'm here. You don't need me, but I'm here.
I think Queta will just go ahead and give Baldir a hug. I guess she'll have to guess and and like reach forward.
In your
But,
small cabin, wouldn't be too hard to miss a Luxodon. So
Yeah, so she'll embrace Baldir, and Baldir would probably be able to hear a soft little sob as she lets the darkness dispel itself and kind of let herself be buoyed up by those words of kindness.
He'll sit there in silence, return the embrace, and just stay there for however long it takes until she makes the move to pull away eventually, but he'll stay there.
So Meta, you break the hug after a long enough time. And as you do, the belt is in your hand.
We are all gonna die. Oh no.
Having cast your thoughts out towards it in the darkness, making maybe not a complete decision, but leaning in that direction, it leans back.
I think Queta and Fright will just drop it and kind of I don't have the word for it, but it's where like people kind of like crawl backwards after like dropping something disgusting in their hands, that kind of image.
Yep.
Recoil.
Yeah, recoil and crawl backwards against the far wall. Baldir, you're right there.
And I see the belt and everything.
Oh yeah, the belt's right there.
I will look directly down at it. Kind of just staring intently. Before glancing back up to Queta. I will get my lumbering frame up, look back down at the belts, and walk around it very slowly. And get behind Queta and basically, if she is willing, kind of pick her up very slowly, get her back on her feet.
Oh yeah, she'll try and get back up.
We're gonna pause right there for a second.
Okay, I guess we are.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes. Oh my god. So the thing
are you?
The thing I was going to do is go check on that damn belt and actually finish out the identify.
So, you walk in.
Mm-hmm.
And the keg of black powder is there.
Yeah.
The spell has come to completion.
What? Oh, wait, which spell? Which spell? Because it's really important.
Spell.
Oh! I'm like,
The identify
thank you,
spell,
Lord!
The identify spell has completed. But the belt is nowhere to be seen.
I will point at my homunculi. My little assistant helpers that were marching around. And I will say, oh, you are in such trouble. I will also dispel the glyph of warding before the keg of gunpowder blows up for whatever reason while I'm standing here. Okay, yep. Give me a moment.
That's your basics.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I would have dragged Kato down here with me because after the scathing scolding that I received last time.
So, Kato, you sort of, as you walk in the door, see Otrek sort of spring into action. Again, you've seen this spell sort of churning, the Artificer's Tango churning away for the last 4 days. And so all of that mechanized mayhem that's been going on here has come to a stop. And I can't remember. You were in the room. Actually, I think you left the room because you had Otrek had bitten you. So you did not. You just see a keg of gunpowder where the belt once was in the center as the focus of this spell.
Yes.
Did we change the belt into a gunpowder keg?
The belt and I had a disagreement, and I had convinced it to behave. I thought I had convinced it to behave because of the gunpowder while you were gone, and I have made a mistake, and I am sorry.
How does one...
Otrek will reach over and dig his claws in the top of the gunpowder keg. Now that the glyph of warding is dispelled,
Yes.
and show the ward. If it were to possess anyone, it would ignite the gunpowder.
It would what?
The gunpowder would be ignited by a powerful magical spell bound to the top of this canister. I felt like this was a better choice. Hear me out, Kato, please. Please.
Oh, I'm listening.
Oh no.
We both know that there is a dark, divine power bound to this belt. And if I had to choose between a flaming ship and a ship controlled by a god of death and divine justice and war, I choose a world with less problems in it, even if one of those problems that is less in it is me.
I don't think I want to unpack that. But
The question is, where is the belt? And he seems elated at this question, like, okay, it evaded all my traps, it got out of the booby trap. That's exciting. Where is it now? But he's also a little cautious because that shouldn't have happened, and that's a problem.
can it grow legs? Did the homunculi carry
No.
off?
No, it cannot grow legs. And he flips the giant chalkboard there to the other side, scratches his leathery, scaled palm over it to clear it, which is probably one of the most god-awful
Horrific.
sounds you can hear. And then he begins charting up in Primordial, probably. Does Kato read Primordial? So he'll get like 2 or 3 lines in, look over. Yeah? Scratch. Draconic. And he will convey the bit about the belt.
Okay. So,
Do you want to transfer that, or should I?
yeah, I'll go ahead and transfer. I just wanted to
Have a lead in.
so you knew a little bit about what we were dealing with. He begins to outline this belt, starting off with just how powerful it is.
Incredibly powerful.
One might call it a vestige from another world. This is the storm girdle of the Night Tempest, a god of war, of justice, of retribution. It is not in the Night Tempest, Knight, Night Tempest, is not inherently good or evil, lawful or chaotic, but is incapable, as being a god of war, of neutrality of any sort. he deals in absolutes. So the four corners of your alignment chart, so to speak. There is no gray when dealing in the terms of the Night Tempest, but not inherently aligned in any one direction, but aligned to war, which has sometimes its own versions of good and bad and lawful or chaotic. It is asleep, as this deity has yet to make enough of impression on this world to truly become an influence or a part of the pantheon. But I can give you a link in chat. You can look in D&D Beyond. This is the basics of it. However, there is a bit of a kicker with this. It is imprinted with the echo of the Tempest Night upon it. And depending on how it awakens, there are potential other things that would become a part of this.
I hate that belt.
But it would take attunement to discover some of those things.
If the question is where the belt is, have we taken a moment to check on Queda? Because isn't the thing taunting her or moving for her, whatever she mentioned on the deck prior?
Which one is Queda?
Queda, what hat were you supposed to wear?
It was gonna be a very plain brown hat. Like a very plain brown, like farmer's hat.
The plain brown straw hat.
Ah, yes. Plain brown straw hat Queda that fixes. Yes.
Queda that fixes.
The one brown hat.
The most normal, boring hat you've seen. There's nothing extraordinary about this hat. It's very normal.
Yes. We should check on them. He gently lowers the keg of gunpowder and slides it back under the desk.
We're not done talking about that. We're putting a pin in this.
No, we are probably not. I am sure that this is a conversation that we will have for some time. Yes.
As you all head down the hallway, we'll say this is sort of happening simultaneously as the hug breaks, belt on the floor, Baldir and Queda sort of across the room from the belt. So you might hear, you've got some pretty good passive perception. You would probably hear some sort of, I wouldn't say call it commotion, but certainly more noise than you're used to from Queda's room as you all are outside the door.
Well, this is promising.
I suppose I am the one that knocks.
You're correct.
Yes. Whenever there is danger, I am the one that knocks.
You all hear a knocking at the door. Queda and Baldir.
I was muted. Queda in shock is, first of all, shocked to hear someone knocking, because knocks are very loud.
I was going to say, probably starts both of you.
Yeah. I think maybe she would actually try and like scoot the belt under her bed again. And then quickly opens up the door.
You'll be confronted with our favorite sausage, Otrek. Yes, I am here for a belt.
We're assuming that the belt found its way to you?
Uh, she doesn't say words, but she looks back over to where she kicked it. Um, uh, she maybe also motions to Baldir and is like, "He was here this time. He knows."
Okay, cool. I wasn't sure where we were going because I was about to like roll into like, was there a belt here, Queta? Like, if you want to play it, it's fine. But
Stealth druid, go.
yeah, Baldir will stay.
Sorcerer.
Yeah, he'll kind of look as well to where she kicked it. It manifested itself right between us. What do you know about this belt? What is it calling for?
You can relay for ease, or unless you want, you're welcome to roleplay it, or we can say
Oh,
that.
I'd like to roleplay
Go
it if
for
you
it.
could.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, Otrek will ease himself into the doorway if Queta will let him by. This is probably getting very close at this point.
Very crowded room right now.
Kato's nose is kind of just slowly poking in, still trying to be distant, but he's nosy.
This belt is a locus of power for the Night of Tempests. It is an anchor for powers of justice and war and retribution. And should it be awakened fully, it is a great tool for combat and retribution. But I do not know under what conditions it can be awakened, and if, when awakened, it can be controlled. For the Night of Tempests lies heavy upon this weapon. We should set it on fire.
Baldir will take this in, nod, and state, well, Gueda, it seems to have chosen you. So, at this point, we just need to find out if you'll choose it.
Otrek will actually get his spines up on that. Like, they will definitely bristle a little bit. I don't know that he says anything, but you can definitely note that, like, I don't know about giving in to fate and that shit. That's not my game, man.
Perhaps some thought needs to be put in onto whether or not this thing is an item that anyone would want to use.
Queta thinks, without saying it out loud, but she is thinking about the encounter they just had with Jin Surat.
Shimandala.
Sorry, Shimandala.
Yeah.
My bad. So she is thinking about the encounter that they all had with them, and she, just as a test, holds her hand out and sees if the belt will just appear in her hand again.
It does.
I don't think we need to use it yet, but I can think of a few cases where it would be useful. And she's kind of like looking at it for a moment before deciding to just look around and see if there's like a place that she can stow it away.
I mean, the wardrobe means, small table that you have, sort of a small bedside chest with, a little 2-drawer sort of small chest or whatever you would like. Your room. You tell me where you put it.
As another test, she thinks about her handy haversack and just kind of stares at the belt for a moment.
It stays in your hand.
She sighs and just kind of like struggles to make her way through and put it in her handy haversack.
It goes in, no problem.
Yeah. So she sighs again and says, well, for all the grief it's been giving me, maybe it's for the best that it's in our hands now.
Otrek would know whether or not the belt is cursed with that level of identify, right?
Correct. It does. It's not cursed, but it definitely has. I won't call it sentience to it, but there is definitely this imprinted echo upon it that has a very strong will.
Okay. Otrek will definitely shoulder into Queta just a little bit, knowing that Queta with the brown hat that fixes things does not like having their space intruded on. And he will definitely say under his breath, kind of quietly as he can, knowing that Baldir's gigantic ears are probably going to pick this up, but he will say, it is not a bound curse, but not all blessings come freely.
Great line. Someone clip that.
How topical.
Is it Alt X? Is it Control X for clipping?
We can go back on the VOD if we want to.
Yeah.
Actually, I know your spine's kind of like raised at Baldir's sentiments, but if you do look towards Baldir at all, like he is giving you a very sincere nod. Like at no point is Baldir like, yeah, slap this shit on, like embrace it. It is very much it's Queta's decision to make here, but those words are incredibly wise. So
I don't have a great wisdom, but I'm definitely smart about it.
Oh yeah, so he is 100% on board and like absolutely appreciates your counsel there.
So let's check in as we've been playing the belt game, so that we have something that you've been doing and certainly some insight you might gain. Halren, we'll say this is happening around dusk as the stars are just coming out, so this is when you're really getting a chance to figure out our course. So whether from the deck or up in the crow's nest, wherever you would like to be, or if there's someplace else that something else you'd rather be doing. But you had mentioned about getting sort of navigation taken care of, you and Duron, so whether together or apart at this point, as the sail sort of sailing into that twilight after the sun's disappeared and the sky begins to turn those colors of deep purple and orange and rose.
So as night does come on, I imagine Howron and Duron are settling all the navigation questions, and it's at that point that Howron will suggest that once night falls, he'll take over in the crow's nest and use his dark vision to help see, oh well, we better not run aground on the reef anytime soon. And then once he's tired and needs a rest and the light has returned in the morning, that maybe Duron can take over and make sure we stay on course and find the reef.
Yeah, I mean, you would know just from the sort of scale that we talked last time, it's probably a good 15, 16 days to cross the full width of the Cerulean Sea and to get you back even to a place where it would be shallow enough for a reef to grow. You are out in deep ocean at this point. Barely, barely left the northern coast of the Cerulean Sea, heading out into the deep sea. And as I'd said, we had talked about it probably being about a 3-week journey to go all the way from the river through the cone. You didn't go all the way north, and you got pushed 3 days south. So, but you've probably got 15 days of sailing to get where you're going.
Well, then in that case, sure. Then I'll just suggest that as our working arrangement for the next couple weeks. Then.
Yeah. If that's all you have, we can go to Duron, as you had something you wanted to do here at the end of the day.
Yep. So once Halron and I have finished our setting up our affairs, Duron's gonna go back to his room. And there is only one room other than his that he has been on in this ship. And he is going to dimension door there and wait in the darkness for Kato to return back to his room.
You are...
Oh no.
Oh, lordy.
Standing in the opulent room that you actually dimension doored a bathtub into, so you are familiar with the room. And stand there. I mean, Kato, after sort of the belt and everything that's been going on, how soon until you actually head back to your room?
It's pretty late, and at this point, as Kato enters in, he's kind of dragging. Takes off his coat, kind of slowly just unfurls the scarf. It just kind of unceremoniously plops to the floor. He's just dragging.
There's a moment as the scarf drops to the floor and you sort of throw coats wherever they might land. That pang of knowing that Fitz won't be sneaking in later tonight to put them away, to hang them up.
He stares over at the bathtub. He kind of narrows his eyes. He kind of looks at it angrily. And he starts, before realizing Duron is there, he starts to, he sinks his claws and starts trying to pull it towards the door.
So, hearing that, Duron's, he's not gonna speak out loud, but you would hear in your mind Duron say, "Would you like a hand?"
Despite his anger and despite whatever emotions are flowing through him, he is still a coward and jumps about 5 feet out of his skin. Lands back in the bathtub in a barreling, tail over head, hands over, just.
I just imagine Duron is like in the back of your room, staring out the like captain's view of the back of the ship, like at the window.
Yep. And he just kind of pokes back over. I wouldn't be opposed.
Then the first thing I'll do is you'll just watch as this shimmering claw that's like twice the size of Duron's body appears underneath the tub and lifts it up. Where would you like it?
Kato strides over next to Duron, overlooking these giant windows, and he opens the windows and points down to the water. Down there.
And I'll just chuck it out.
Tub.
Without looking at anything else. He hears the splash. He's overlooking the glittering water in the dark. Maybe if there was less weight, maybe there's something that I can do. I don't have the magic that you do to make us go faster, but I'll do what I can to make us go faster because he's there alone. And we need to be there. How can I help you, Duran?
I don't think that you can, but... And still saying, like, he hasn't spoken a word. He's gonna turn to you and look at you kind of like side-eyed and actually speak out loud. Would you like to speak to him?
Who?
Fitz.
Is that something you can do?
And he'll just kind of like motion to, I guess, I don't know what you sleep on. It's probably some luxurious bed, and said,
It's like a very nice bed with a bunch of pillows and
yeah.
blankets just to make like a nice little nest to sleep on top of.
Have a seat.
Kato will do just that.
Kato, you may know me better than most of the rest of the crew, even though our time together previously was brief. But do you trust me?
He's silent for a second, as if he's really trying to pick his words. I don't like you right now. And we may not be on the best of terms at the moment. But a rainstorm will not whittle away the mountains. This is not enough to erode what we have. I don't like you right now, but that doesn't change the fact that I trust you.
You'd see this look on Duran's face, because he's still not really looking at you. And it's like he takes a large exhale, like sigh of relief. Let's begin. And this like swirl of water is gonna like surround the two of us as he motions for you to lay down. And he like takes one of your claws in his and puts his other hand on top of it. And you would hear, even though you don't probably know what this is, but you would hear that lament that he played the other night. And he just channels that magic, and I am going to cast Dream on Kato as the messenger for Fitz. And so whenever Fitz falls asleep, Kato can speak to him.
As this sort of haunting tune that's not being played physically, but that is imbuing this magic is sent out through those windows, across the moonlight, back to the north, swirling across the ocean, connecting to one small dwarven boy, alone, scared, lost in his own mind right now, reading to himself from those pages that are etched in his memory. That is where we will take our break. We'll be right back, folks. Hope you're enjoying our story. Hi, folks, and we are back. We will pick up here where we left off in Cato's room, with Duron having just cast this spell. Cato, you concentrate on the music and sort of it sweeps you across this open sea, and you are able to sense that Fitz has succumbed to a fitful sleep. And as you sort of allow yourself to get quiet, you find yourself within Fitz's dream. And it is a familiar place that he has escaped to. You find yourself in your wardrobe. Fitz, sitting across from you, reading. Even in his dream, to escape, he is lost himself within a book. One of these books that are etched in his mind, that pristine, perfect, gem-like mind that remembers every page, every word, every letter of every book that he has ever read. In this dream, you are able to shape the surroundings, and you are able to communicate.
Cato will gently knock on the outside of the wardrobe.
You don't hear a response, just almost as you had found Fitz after the battle, the air battle. You just hear this murmuring. It is the same passage of the same book that you recall about a brave knight preparing for battle and encouraging others to be brave as well.
He'll gently open the door.
Silently, because of course it's well-oiled hinges.
Oh, of course.
It opens. You see in exquisite detail every piece of your wardrobe that Fitz's mind has created. And there he sits.
Cato will sit next to him and kind of pull the door back shut, but since it's a dream, he magically still has light to see his book. Because logic. And Cato will sit with him for a moment before clearing his throat a little bit. Remind me, when you see me next, I have to tell you about a book.
You actually don't get a response or even really an acknowledgement. It is this fixated focus, sort of at his hands curled around his knees.
Cato will put an arm around the far shoulder and kind of just pull him in while he's reading.
You see just the tiniest crack of a smile, a little curve to his lip, but almost unable to do more in this state that he's in.
I guess I could tell you now. It's about a brave knight who is rescuing a prince from the grotesque claws of a mighty dragon. And he sails on giant brass wings in scorching deserts and mountaintops, endless oceans as far as the eye can see. And with his friends, they're able to reach this dastardly foe who's kept this prince locked up. And they're working with the prince who's, memorized this dragon's patterns and everything, weaknesses, waiting for the right opportunity to spring from this trap. They're able to be reunited. And I think my favorite part about this particular story is that the knight and the prince learn a little something about bravery together.
As you tell this story, Fitz is continuing reading the book, mumbling the words, but across from you, on the wardrobe on the inside, you see, it almost looks like a chalk child's drawing of a ship with bronze wings flying across the ocean. He continues to read the story that you've read before as well, but
Rest easy, Fitz. We're coming. You're going to be okay. Even if I have to swim, even if I have to paddle or drink the ocean, whatever it takes, we will be there. And you are not alone.
he just reads. You can stay as long as you like. The spell lasts for 8 hours, or you can...
Kato will just stay there with him. Sometimes words don't need to be said.
Yep.
Other times it's just the presence.
Arm around Fitz's shoulder, his familiar voice. And the prince. The knight was very brave, and just word for word, this book that you read when you were younger. And that is how we will end the day. Life at sea becomes a series of repeated events, much like our own lives can become just the same thing again and again. we're going to find out how the members of the party spend their next week as time passes on the ship. Your normal routines, your normal duties, we don't need to get into, as everyone is pushing to keep the ship moving as fast as possible, guiding it towards the next shore. Let's check in with Otrek, as there were a few things I know you were working on. One thing that we have not done from long ago, but we can hand wave a little bit.
I would like to know about that ore, yeah.
Is these ores that you have gotten, and I've actually, I was all set for this, and then of course put it away.
As you do.
As you do. Tell me a little bit about the other things you're doing while I'm pulling up exactly what the ores are.
We are going to be recalibrating and fine-tuning and refining things regarding the work I am doing for Biriana in the background. You know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
There is a staff that Otrek is constantly redoing. He will be out at dawn, dusk, midnight, at odd hours. He will consult with Hauron and Duron to ask about the tides, the depths, the stars, the constellations. He will speak with Baldir about the weather patterns and the movement of the waves as he came through the portal, all to kind of refine this all along the way. As he does so, you're going to find that he's probably incorporating some of this fulgurite and maybe some of these ores, depending on what they do.
So, these ores, they're very, very interesting, especially to an artificer. They are storm infused. One of the pieces is a storm-infused piece of mithril ore, and which can be incorporated into another magical item, which will give it the effects of a shocking grasp in addition to its normal damage. So as though when you hit with an attack, the effects of a shocking grasp are imbued upon the target. The other piece is of thorium ore, which is very similar, except with Thunder Wave, when imbued onto another magical item. And I'm sending these to you as well. And the last is a piece of Elementium ore, which is Zephyr Strike, until they are hit. Okay. So basically, it would imbue another magical weapon that you infused with this ore, with that additional damage and effect type.
Okay, I have some other ideas to use with that. I will get with you at another time, but that definitely puts me somewhere mentally. I like it.
So, I mean, you can look at those spells to sort of get the flavor of what these, the different things, one being thunder, one being lightning, and the other being wind, is sort of the way.
The only one that I'm not familiar with right offhand is Zephyr Strike. So
it's one of the newer ones. It's a little tricky, but you should be able to find it in D&D Beyond.
Okay, I'll look that up but you will definitely see Otrek experimenting with these, lightning crackling off of his talons, sometimes being blown back by variously impacts of thunder or wind, and definitely incorporating these. He's meticulously shaving off parts and carving various runes, consulting people. God, who's probably the best with Primordial? I know Kato's not it. That's probably Duron, right?
I think Baldir as well.
Yeah. Baldir also has Primordial.
I will, as much as Otrek is a dear friend of Baldir, I'm gonna avoid him on this one. You're gonna actually pick up a sense that I'm avoiding you. Baldir is gonna be a little bit put to the side. Duron, I will definitely corner you because during these days there is something else I need to do.
Oh.
I am approaching you.
Can I hide?
Do you want to?
No.
Okay. So at some point, a couple days later, after things have calmed down, we've settled into our routine, Otrek will find you. When and where would he find you?
Guess that depends on the time of day.
That's up to you. Otrek doesn't have a sleep schedule right now. Dude's manic.
Oh. Well, sure. If you found him during the night, it would be at the front of the ship playing his violin.
I would not intrude on that. I'm
Oh, well then.
I'm a little ignorant on that, but I would definitely not screw with your music playing.
Then you would find him any time of the day, really, in his quarters.
All right, so to your quarters. Maybe shortly before or after lunch, you would hear a respectful rapping or rasping on the door from Talons.
I will just kind of open the door with a cantrip and from the side and tell you to come in.
Are you wearing your hat? My odds are no.
Fun fact, I don't know that Duron has ever worn that hat that you gave him.
I would hope you would have at some point. However, without needing to guess, without any hesitation or questioning, Otrek will say, Duron, we need to talk. He will come in and he will close the door behind him. And he will preemptorily sit down. If your bed is open, that's where he'll sit. If your bed is not open, he will sit somewhere else.
He has a hammock, not a bed.
Good choice.
So,
I won't sit in that.
Then on the floor, because his quarters are pretty barren for the most part.
All right. So Otrek will sit and then drop over on the side and stretch out as his lizardy self. And he will say, there is a tension between us. You did something for me against your patron that I need to recognize. Twice, and twice again twice, I give you this. A shield from those who would harm you.
You're 4 times? You're giving me something 4 times.
Twice, and twice again twice. That's 8. He seems frustrated.
Math is not my strong suit.
That is fine. When I was about to be crushed, when the life was to be wrung out of me, by a force far beyond me and far beyond you, that you have sworn to obey, you challenged that force. I cannot and will not forget this so long as I live. My magics and my power shall shelter you. It is the least I can do. What's your spellcasting focus?
Well, he has a Rod of the Pact Keeper, and
the amulet, yeah, is your true.
And then the amulet, yeah, that's the other thing that he uses.
Otrek will know that there are 2 different sources of you. There's one source of your power, but there are 2 different ways you channel it.
Yeah.
He will deliberately choose, and he will say, the rod that you utilize when things become strenuous. Give that to me for a moment.
Okay. I'll hand it.
All right. Otrek will turn over on his back and begin pulling out a various set of small, elaborate tools from his harness and begin making minute adjustments.
Wait a second. So you are like sprawled out in my quarters on your back, kind of like going like this. Okay.
I'm assuming he's holding the rod with his feet and using his hands to work.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, so you're doing the cat thing. Got it.
I'm a marine iguana, man. You're lucky I'm ever upright. I'm just gonna lay on rocks and do warmth. That's all I want in life, and eat kelp.
Okay.
That's the best things in life. Man.
I dig it.
It's not about seeing the lamentations of your women, and no. It's about eating kelp and being in the water. That's what it's about. So I will carve elaborate small refinements onto this rod. I have no idea. I've probably never even thought about asking you where you got it, what it means to you, what it does. It's a story that does not matter at this moment to Otrek, because he can see in this second that rod has flaws. But those flaws can be connected to something else. And you will see that he will carve something on it, and then he'll roll his arm, and it will be carved on a scale. Something similar. And then he will carve something else, and he'll do a different scale. And a different scale. And over the course of not very long, actually, maybe at most 10 seconds, there will be a number of gouges in his scales that match various refinements in your rod. And he will hand it back. At 11th level, I gain the ability to imbue a item with a spell. Your Rod of the Pact Keeper now has Shield that you can call upon 8 times.
Whoa!
Wow!
That is awesome! Holy! All right.
So as a reaction, that's a +5 to your
Yep.
AC and complete immunity to magic missiles.
Yeah.
That is the spell. If you remember right, the spell I cast to try and save my life before you stepped up was Shield.
Mm-hmm.
And after that fact, you stepped up because you saw it wasn't enough. That, twice times twice times twice. He gives that to you. I'm going to actually shelf that 11th level spell ability. That is now yours. You will have that until Otrek dies or things go bad. You have Shield in your arcane rod.
I'm going to make good use of that.
Nice. Love that story beat. And absolutely, we'll just say that you've traded your, I guess it's a 6th level spell, or at 11th level, whatever.
It's my 11th level class feature.
Class feature, got it. Okay, cool, awesome.
I can do it with other things. I can do it again, but if I ever do it again with another object, it breaks that one.
Gotcha.
I just want to invest in that one. That's the important part for me.
I love it. That's perfect. I love when players make decisions like that.
The other thing I would like to signal out here is, if you guys have known any of the interactions that are going on behind here, Otrek is conservative with his magic, and he is protective of Kato. It is one of those really big things. Kato put himself out on a limb for Otrek. And Kato now has some exceptional armor because of that. Otrek just gave you a boon. Because that is what you've earned. You saved his life at the cost of your power. All he can do in response is give you that moment where, when you need it as a reaction, Otrek's power will be there, carved on that rod and Otrek's very flesh. It's a bond. Forever.
Love it.
Thank you. I appreciate the gift. Truly.
It is no gift. There is a bond between those of us that are of mortal flesh. And he sneers a little bit. You know that he's talking about non-primordials.
Yeah.
We have but such fleeting times. We leave behind stories and legacies. Your story, your legacy, preserved me. My story should preserve you. And Otrek will get up. He's a little uncomfortable. He's not very emotionally intimate, generally speaking, but he is also very involved with preserving a history and kind of an idea. And he moves towards the door. You have a moment to stop him.
just as a note, world lore wise, I know that Sol and I have talked about this, so above table for a second. Otrek is the shortest lived among the crew. Probably a quarter of the lifespan of our dragonborn dwarves and elves, and half the lifespan of Baldir. So, Otrek has about a 250 year lifespan, where elves, dwarves, and dragonborn are all in the 8 to 900, and Baldir being in the 400 or so years.
Unless I'm wrong, like I said earlier, I will die soon. I don't have much left.
Yeah, you are a good 150 years or more, because there is a time you can't account for where you were pre-enlightenment.
Yep.
But yeah, you are actually the sort of the crusty old man of the crew.
Huh.
I would actually say, Duron, with your fortune telling and your foresight, you probably are the only one, especially with the way that you lean towards the more, telling people about the day of their death and stuff like that. You probably are more acutely aware of that than anybody.
I don't know what Duron would say to this.
Silence is a good answer. Just a companionable silence as
Yeah.
I leave.
Yeah, he's gonna ponder on this question for a little bit on his own, because he thinks probably more about interpersonal relationships than anyone would ever realize.
Then yeah, Otrek would just leave you.
Yeah.
He would say that and then pause at the door, give you that opportunity, and then without a bit of hesitation, without a bit of accusation, he would just nod at the door and leave you to that. And that's where I'd like to fade out with Otrek's interaction there.
I love it. Rest of you, over the course of the week, any key interactions you would like to explore or dive into? I mean, do we want to touch base with Baldir and sort of how he's doing with sort of a week to reflect? If a week's not enough time, that's fine, because we've got another week to kill as well.
Yeah, actually, I think one of these nights, Baldir is going to join, whether it's in the Crow's Nest or wherever it is, he's going to find his dear friend Howron and catch up with Howron. Kind of hail him whenever he feels like Howron has a moment's break, and approach.
Howron always has time for Baldir, so I'm sure we can easily find a moment on the deck for that.
He'll find you in the evening time when the stars are brightest, and we'll approach, just kind of looking up wistfully, smiling a bit. They're beautiful tonight, huh?
Always, my friend.
And he kind of lets the pause between them sit for a second as he just kind of leans on the railing and looks at the stars. And his brow will furrow, and friend Howron, I apologize. I've been ignoring our usual tea and conversations, and please do not think it is anything to do on your end. I just wanted to address it and fully own and accept the blame on mine.
There is no blame, Baldir. I understand there's been much on your mind, or at least I imagine so.
He nods and just kind of absentmindedly stares at the stars, and when you look up, what do you see? And you can skip the straight specifics here. You and I have had many a conversation about the meanings and directions these lead you to, but what do you see? Do you see a map? Do you see a story? Do you see waypoints? Or is it just kind of a tangle of knots that you have to work through?
Halloran will pause for a moment and, not rush to answer Baldir on this point before he says that, or he says, when there's no sun and I can actually see without having to close my eyes, and he, blinks his little reptile adaptation there. And he continues, I see a map, sure, when I'm sailing or when I was trying to cross the Emerald Highlands all those years ago, but what I can't help but see is a world reflected. As we are now discovering new lands, there's always something new to be seen in the sky, especially at night. It helps us remember how much there is in the world.
And with all this,
What do you see?
That's actually part of the reason that I've come. With all this, with the grand enormity of it all, vast worlds, lands, seas, stars, it's been easy to, and pardon me on this one, wander a bit carefree, a bit haphazardly, but with Fitz, with the journey, with the concepts, the finality, I'm reaching my 200th year. I just don't know how to make sure I'm doing the right things. I'm better at helping others get to where they need to be, at being a guide. And I'm quite bad at being guided.
Halloran sighs and says, I said it a few days ago after we were first pushed, but again, Baldir, what happened with Fitz was not your fault. And, well, as you say, the grand enormity of it all can be overwhelming sometimes, but we'll get there together. You can always guide yourself, no?
He smiles at that. It's a lot easier to say than it is to hear.
Fair enough.
And just kind of processes the irony of giving basically the same guidance to Quia. And like, I don't know, that kind of sets him in on himself a little bit about how he's approaching things and his interactions with folks. And
Perhaps it's time for tea.
I'll get the kettle on. And yeah, he'll resume his usual tea time with Auron that he has missed dearly.
Okay. let's look in on Queta.
So for the next week, until she's told to stop, every morning she would cast an unseen servant for Kato. So that every morning for like an hour, he would have like she would tell the servant, she would conjure the servant, and she would say, I need you to assist this one in any way he needs. And then she would kind of knock gingerly, I guess, so as to not disturb him too heavily, and crack open the door a little bit to let the unseen servant walk in. And just kind of let her have a surrogate for Fitz.
Let's explore this for a second. So first thing, we had talked on break that Duron casts Dream on you every night. Is Kato sleeping, or are you racking up exhaustion? As if you are sitting with, and I'm not sure if this is rules as written, but this is how we're going to do it, is that if you're sitting awake with Fitz in his dreams, that you are not getting a long rest.
So the only thing I would ask is, Dream puts the messenger in a trance. So I don't know if you can sleep during it, but it doesn't require any concentration or anything like that. So
I'm gonna play this that if you sit with, I'm house ruling this right now. If you decide to sit awake with Fitz while Fitz is asleep, you are awake.
Yeah.
And that would be the question, is whether or not you are sleeping during the day instead, or racking up exhaustion.
He is sleeping during the day. Like as soon as that 8-hour mark ends, Kato typically kind of crashes then.
Okay. So we can have Queta sort of maybe meet you one morning sort of in the crossover. Sometimes, Queta, you go in thinking that Kato is just sleeping in late when actually he has just gone to bed. But we'll say about the third or fourth day in, you hit a crossover. I just kind of want to see how this plays out.
Of course.
All right. So as I assume Kato would be exiting the trance from Dream, is when Queta would actually have knocked on the door. She would have already cast the servant.
Fitz,
come
in.
So she cracks the door open just a little bit, and Kato would probably hear her kind of saying to the unseen servant, you know, if she calls you, if he calls you Fitz by accident, I think you should go ahead and do what he says, just as normal. I believe he's going through a rough moment. You would hear her saying that, and maybe like you wouldn't see anyone coming in, but the servant would be walking in.
Can he hear the footsteps?
I believe so. I was actually looking this up a minute ago, and it doesn't say anything about not hearing them.
Yeah, so we'll say that you would hear the footsteps. We'll just let's lean into this. It's how y'all imagine it, how you want to tell this story.
Yeah, you would hear them.
Queta, did you just come in?
Queta,
Because he heard your voice.
Okay. Now that Queta's been caught, the door, she's kind of has her hand on the door. She's just about to close it. and she's kind of thinking really quickly, uh-oh, I could sneak away right now, or I could just say, I could quickly think of an excuse. So I guess she says through the crack in the door, oh, I was just checking up on you, see if you were getting up all right. You know, it's been a rough few days probably, and I just thought that maybe you might need a helping hand. You could call it Fitz if you want, if it'll make you feel better, she says. And then she bites her tongue. Like, maybe not.
He has enough social grace to not make a comment on that one. But he does look a little sad. Queda, I appreciate it, but I think I have most of my tasks pretty well handled. I've been spending most of my nights awake, and I found that I prefer to sleep during the day now. So, the gesture, though, it is not going unseen.
Unseen servant, though. She, hearing that you've been staying up and sleeping during the day, she actually is convinced more to actually open the door wider and check in on you just to make certain that you are A-okay.
He looks awful. He hasn't gotten sleep. It's been what, almost a week?
I will say at this day, it's about 4 days. You probably had 4 days where you've had, you get that sort of napping during the day. So I'm throwing this at you because I'm being a DM. We'll say you've got 2 points of exhaustion.
Yeah, he looks like he's barely gotten any sleep. Passing moments, little slivers throughout the day, just stolen moments as best he can, but outside of that, his time is spent trying to comfort Fitz.
Queda sees her startled for a moment, then goes, "Dear stone father, Kato." She kind of takes him by the shoulders and just gingerly sets him down on the bed and says, I understand this. I guess I don't really understand exactly what you and Fitz were going through, what you're going through now that you don't have him around, but we are going to see him again. We are hard at work making the boat sail as smooth as it could be, with the express purpose of seeing him again. And she's trying to think of the nicest way to put this. You won't be able to see him looking like that. She kind of blurts that out. The unseen servant, by the way, is just folding clothes if there are any
oh yeah, a lot of things have been neglected in this room because he's just been sleeping or in the trance most of the time. But Queda's words seem to have made a mark at least. I suppose you're right, and it's getting a little easier. It's just shifting one's sleep schedule from daytime to one that is more nocturnal. It just takes a bit of an adjustment period.
Queta sighs. and looks around the room. I guess you would still see like shadows playing on the walls and just kind of get an idea and say, I understand that. I suppose you'll probably be wanting some sleep now. You look like you've seen a lot of difficult nights.
The only difficulty in them is the frustration in knowing that we can only move so quickly.
Queta rifles through her tools and grabs her carpenter tools and says, suppose I'll have to talk to Otrek about making this move quicker than quickly. For now, that's, I think, our concern. You, I think, need your rest. So why don't you close your eyes for now?
Please don't hit me with that.
She looks at the tools and says, don't worry, I have other tools for that. Anyway, why don't you get some rest? And she like very gingerly starts just like letting you like lie down on the bed and waits for you to just like completely close your eyes.
Kato will cover himself up and kind of pull the covers up a little further down his snout. Just, I don't know, out of playful fear. Yes, ma'am.
When Queta thinks that Kato is at least started falling asleep, she'll look around for any windows where light might be pouring in.
A giant wall of windows.
True. So she decides, plan B. Just gonna cast darkness as a dome over Kato.
There you go.
So for the next hour, at least, Kato will be able to sleep soundly in full-on darkness.
That's plenty enough to get him to the sleep point, and then he'll just coast through the rest.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
with that, Queta will just gingerly. She's got pretty high stealth. She'll gingerly like step out of the room and head out to set up on her usual like maintenance and crew work duties.
So, the first week passes, and unless there's something else y'all want to touch on in the first week.
Duron didn't get to do anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Things happened with him. So I just have a question, really, for Baldir. Is he avoiding Duron?
No, he's not going out of his way to talk to Duron, but I'd say anytime you guys like glance, make eye contact, anything like that, there's not that anger. There's almost I don't know, man, just a kind of a weariness, I guess. And then he doesn't like jolt away to avoid your eye contact. He probably even gives you a nod, maybe something close to a smile, but not quite a smile. But yeah, he's not like going out of his way. He's acknowledging your presence, everything like that.
So it's the cold shoulder for Baldir, basically.
Maybe something close to it, but it's complicated feelings right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's definitely not like, if you were to approach him or something, he wouldn't be like, yeah, yeah.
I think Duron would give that about pushing towards the end of a week.
Okay.
And then he would seek Baldir out.
Okay. Speaking of Baldir, and we're not going to do all the rolls just because you've got such a bonus on them. Is Baldir staying up and controlling the wind through the nights?
Probably about 3 nights, get
Yeah.
some sleep, 3 nights, yeah.
And because of your bonuses, we're not going to go ahead and bother with the rolls, but we'll say you're pretty much able to keep up that schedule at 3 nights and then a night of sleep, then 3 nights and a night of sleep. Something all of you would notice. Biriana is very absent, if not just locked at the helm during this whole week. The ship is running smoothly, running like clockwork, in fact. But there is not that same Whales Whiskers. Morale is definitely dampened, and a lot of it can be felt from Biriana not sort of being as big of a presence and bright of a presence as you all are used to, having traveled with her, many of you, for over a century, either right before this or centuries before. It is noticeable. And with that, we'll move on to the following week, as the ship moves one day blending into another. The continual, exciting and discovery that we had for a while of new animals, new coasts. You all are sort of out in the deep sea, and it is beginning to become that monotony of day after day. Routine, sails up, sails down, tacking with the wind. Some new creatures may be seen, but after a while, there's not the novelty that there is with it. And it just becomes, with everyone pressing forward, onward, to the south, across these crystal blue waters. Day 10, another pod of leviathans are seen, and there's a quick tightening of everyone's stomach, but they disappear with no issue. Some new seabirds pass by, something maybe even the size of the Anzu, but of a different sort of elemental nature, passing high in the air, sort of soaring across the seas, almost like an albatross. But the sun rises, the sun sets, meals are eaten, a sail gets a quick repair here or there. Nights spent in the moonlight in a trance for Cato. Baldir, 3 days on, a rest, and then another 3 days pushing the boat as fast as he can. Queta, any small little adjustments that can be made, even to the point of barnacles being scraped off of the hull, every little thing that people can use with their powers to inch that last a little bit more speed out of the Whales Whiskers. Over that time, we'll say around day 13 of the 15 that we're estimated, if not before, let's tune in on Duron and Baldir.
So, knowing pretty well by now, Baldir's kind of schedule, I would want, at this point, since it's been kind of chilly between the two of us, I'd want to have this conversation during the night, one of the days that you're staying up, and seek you out when you are either above or below deck. I don't know which one you would want to be at.
You tell me what would be better for Duran. Would you rather meet Baldir towards the end of his shift, where things are kind of on track and it's mostly him coasting along, he's just helping control the winds? Or would you rather meet him in his quarters, where he is probably loading up another round of tobacco?
I think Duran would go to his quarters. So there would be a slight knock at the door.
Baldir would, you could hear his frame getting up from his seat, and he would come to the door and open it, and almost that very brief, eyes widen before, going back to his normal look. Friend Duran, may I invite you in?
I was hoping that you would.
And he will pull up a chair for Duran. He will continue his process of loading his tobaccos, and he will begin the process of lighting them. And, as this kind of little ceremony engages, he will offer to Duran, but not pressure or force anything, for sure.
I don't think that Duran would imbibe.
I'll just give you a little nod to that. And
just kind of watch you go about for a minute or two before posing a question. Are you upset with me?
Take a long, deep drag. Let it resonate in his massive lungs before blowing it out slowly. The very heavy sigh. Duran, when I look at you, I see many things. I see someone who wants to be in control. I see someone who is not used to failure. I see someone who is bad at not getting exactly what he wants. Bad when people don't view him exactly how he wants to be viewed. Duran, when I look at you, all I can see is a lonely man. That is a reflection of myself. I apologize for being cold to you lately, but when I look at you, I see my failure. And well, I've continued my weakness in not discussing it with you, and for that, I apologize to you now.
Duran's gonna take a long time to think over what just happened, what he just heard, before kind of finding his words. I really didn't know. And I'm not used to not knowing. But I didn't tell everyone everything either. And so our situation is partly my fault. And there's this like tense look, like he is grappling with this problem because he doesn't feel like he did anything wrong, but what ended up happening because of what he did is bad. You know, when we were suspended by my patron, all I could think of is, what would you do?
Duran, friends, please understand. I harbor no ill feelings towards you at this moment. You were confronted by something above and beyond anything you could have expected, by your very source of power. In fact, I thank you 1,000 times over for laying yourself in danger to protect friend Otrek. I hear the reservation in your voice. There's still a lot for you to unwind from this event, but at the end of the day, you understand your part in it, and more importantly, you stepped up. What's so amazing to me is how beautiful the sounds you make from your loneliness. And what's hard to imagine is how you remain so real.
You know, I'm beginning to think there's no real value in power if there's no one else that can benefit from it. Not yourself, but if I can't use it to help the people that I wish to spend my days with, what good is any of it?
For the first time in 2 weeks, Baldir will look to you with a sincere and genuine smile. I hope you never stop surprising me how you do, Duran.
I'll just sit back and give you a smile, and now he'll take a little bit of your hookah. I hope we continue to surprise each other.
The days and the nights pass until we find ourselves early in the morning. Baldir and Halran up on deck. And Baldir, with your extraordinary passive perception, you hear it first. Waves crashing against shores or something. Halran, with your dark vision, your night eyes of drow, you can see the sort of white foam of the ocean as it breaks upon your first signs of a reef that lies ahead. According to your maps, this must be massive, as you were thinking you wouldn't arrive to nearly midday tomorrow. And there, as the moon comes out from behind the skull, behind the clouds, you see a giant dragon skull sticking up out of the water, the waves rushing against it. And as the moonlight crosses across this darkened part of the sea, you see sticking up out of the waters bleached bones of rib cages and another primordial skull, and another, and another. Here and there you see a green scale illuminated by the moonlight, still attached to these brood of the verdant shadow that dared invade this space. You thought perhaps Shimandala was talking about 1, 2, 3, right, at most. And as the clouds part further, you see dozens of skulls. Huge, probably 50 to 80 feet from front to back. A third of the size of the ship as they start to loom up out of the waves. Your eyes again can pick up a change in the color of the water. And that's when it hits both you and Baldir. The smell of death, of corruption. It's especially interesting, you want to call it that, to you, Halran, as being a druid. There is a renewal that comes with death. This is not of that type of natural decay. It is a corruption of the cycle of life. As the ship continues to sail forward, now getting closer to these skulls, some of these rib cages looming up nearly half as high as the masts. You almost could hop off one, Halran, from the crow's nest and land on it safely. Down in their cabin, we see Cato as he is in a trance. Inside of Fitz's dream, arm around Fitz as he first time, Fitz turns his head and looks at Cato. Sir?
Yes.
I think Shimandala is sick. And that is where we're going to end our session for the evening.
Fine.
Thank you, everybody.
Wait, no. We've got like another 4 hours to just unpack what you just said. Hold on.
Yeah.
No,
I think we need
This is-
some more time.
Yeah, that's kind of a heavy one to end on.
So,
I'm okay with it.
Wait, hold on. Grant, what time is it over there? It's not 11 p.m. there yet. We still have like tons more time to go.
it's only
Oh,
5
yeah,
a.m.,
fine.
so we've got 18 more
Whole day.
hours. Yeah.
Let's go.
I've got all day.
Fucking challenge me. I dare you.
Challenge
Anyway.
accepted.
Longer.
Hope everyone
Hey.
enjoyed our story this evening. Let's go around real quick and meet our cast. You all make my job so easy. What an amazing session, an amazing, again, group of scenes. I can't wait to make highlights other than the fact I'll highlight the entire episode again. But let's start off with Saul. Tell us who you are, where we can find you.
I am Soul. You can find me pretty much everywhere as Soul's Rolls. I've got a blog. I've got a Ko-fi. I just released my first 5e adventure. So if you like kind of the voice that I bring to the game, you should check that out. You can check it on my Ko-fi. I play Otrek, our lizard folk artificer, who is a little bit of a wild loose cannon. And I am really, really glad that I'm building all these great ties with everyone that's playing with me, from Duran saving my life, to Kato keeping me out of trouble, to Baldir allowing me to smoke up some birds. It has been a blast with all of you, and I look forward to every single one of these games.
Next up, thank you. Next up, we have Ace.
Yes, I am Ace of Sween. You can find me on Twitter. My online presence is pretty minimal, but I play Duran, the Fathomless Warlock. Like I said, my online presence is pretty small. You'll find me talking to Tall Squall or Colm McGinnis. He's a brilliant musician. Go check his stuff out instead of mine.
Next up, we have Grant.
Good evening, everyone, or good morning, as the case may be for some of us. First, I just wanted to echo what Saul said about, looking forward to playing the game every time. It's been great working with all of you, or playing with all of you. And yeah, so I'm Howron, the group's Circle of Stars Druid, and yeah, you can find me on Twitter as @Soclamon, where again, actually, like Saul, I just released my first original 5e content too.
Which is awesome. Vitalic Sorcerer,
Thank-
right?
Love it, yeah.
Yeah.
Next up,
Thanks,
we have Meta.
Hi everyone, I'm Metazoa. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter and Instagram as Metazoa54321. I just put a message in chat because I just played Queta. I stream, sometimes I write, I play music. Last week I added to my repertoire having a stomach virus, which was less than a great experience, and I would like it to be over. So crossing my fingers for that. And yeah, these sessions have been really just a joy to be a part of. And I really think that's all I got to add on that. So
Next up, we have Bird.
Hey folks, I'm Bird. You can find me everywhere as Bird versus Plane. Yeah, I don't know what to say about this session other than I was kind of dreading having to put about 120 bags of candy together, and the past 3 hours have like flown by in an instant. Just was how sick every single interaction has been tonight. So like, hats freaking off to this whole group. It's just so cool to be able to roll one die, maybe in a D&D session, maybe.
Yeah.
and get where we got. So
You know-
this is just so awesome.
I was gonna say I gotta give Luna a little camera time. She's like, oh, you're about to say the words. Last but not least, Kuma.
Hello, yes, I'm Kuma. You can find me all over the internet as Kuma the Bronze. I play our life cleric, Brass Dragonborn Kato. You can find me on Twitch and other people's Twitches. I run games that are typically not D&D, showcase other types of tabletops that you can play. I'm writing my own indie tabletop currently about werewolves, and hopefully that'll be out by probably mid next month, because I will be probably giving away slots for charity for one-on-one gameplay. So yeah, this crew is amazing and the bright spot of my week.
Well, golly, thank you all so much. Y'all are truly a joy to be a DM for. So I thank y'all for every one of these sessions and for adding to the rich complexity of this world that is Valknor that I've dreamed up over the last 4 or 5 years. I am Tall Squall. I was your DM. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy all of these players as much as I do, and the story we're telling. We do run 100% for charity. If you'd like to donate, you can click on the link down below to go to Satchel's Last Resort. That's where this little one came from. And until next time, gather your friends together and tell a story, because that is what it's all about. Y'all have a great evening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.